And welcome to Alexi Boyd with Small Biz Matters here at the Triple H 100.1 FM studios live here in Hornsby and across Australia with the Community Radio Network. We've got another fabulous guest sitting across from us here at the studio, and I'm very excited to be welcoming her because I've seen her present a couple of times at a couple of Ku-ring-gai Council events, and she is phenomenal, incredibly well, very knowledgeable in her field and just a great presenter all round. So we've got Heather Porter today. Now, we're talking about Facebook. Now, it's been in the news a little bit in a negative light. We're not going to be touching on that, but more about Facebook for business and how it's changed, how it's evolved since the beginning of Facebook, the inception. Lots of us out there who run a small business might have dabbled with the idea of ads or even just expanding our reach or playing around with Facebook groups as a way of advertising ourselves. How effective is it? And are we really just fumbling around in the dark until we spend a decent amount of time setting it up properly? And also, how has Facebook changed? How has it evolved? Is it really still worth advertising on there as a business, or are you better off looking for more businessy platforms like LinkedIn? Well, in a way, it depends what type of business you run, but it always needs to be part of your armoury, simply just to have a presence on there. And today's expert, Heather Porter, is an expert in social media marketing and has been doing this for a number of years, but more importantly, she presents on this to groups of small businesses, sharing her expertise on how to get onto Facebook and how to make the most of that advertising dollar. Welcome to the program, Heather.
Thank you so much for having me, and what a gorgeous intro. Thank you.
Well, I must say, when I heard you speak those couple of times over the last year or so, I still refer back to my notes that I took at those two presentations, and I think that's really, I think that's a guide of a good presenter, because you're always looking back at what you learned and how you can continue to implement it in your business, because it's not about the now, it's about understanding how these things change and evolve and how you can utilise them. So explain to me, first of all, let's talk about that thing that pops up, boost, that boost button. Now, I remember when you were presenting, you weren't a huge fan of the boost button. So let's talk a little bit about why running that single ad just isn't really effective and can sometimes put people off.
Well, let's start, I guess, about the rule of 7. So in marketing, there's something called the rule of 7, which is actually more these days. And what it really implies is that any normal human being needs about 7 touch points before they decide to buy a product or service. So what happens is that we need to see your brand in multiple lights, whether it is on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or YouTube or radio or, magazines or whatever it is. Now, the thing is with a boosted post is it's very, very simple to use, but it's not very flexible as far as what it can do. So you literally are just clicking boost, and then hopefully it's going to get out there to people that like your page, or maybe their friends or some people in your local area, but you don't have a lot of control over the objectives or the targeting. So it's great for starters. It's great for a one-off, but if you really want to do the 7 touch points, you have to do it much more advanced than that.
And so with the boost button, are you trusting those Facebook algorithms that we've heard not such nice things about recently, but are you sort of trusting them to read your business, understand your business, and then advertise it to the group that you're trying to target? I mean, Facebook isn't that good.
You're trusting them to basically get engagement on that post. That's right. But what if you want traffic to your website? What if you want conversions? So you're trying to get sales, like you're in e-commerce, you're selling something on your site. What if you want more video views or more page likes? There's a lot of other objectives that boosting a post does not allow you to do. So you are relying heavily on an algorithm just for engagement and not really some of the harder hitting business objectives.
So you mentioned a whole bunch of social media platforms and obviously advertising options, including, the traditional radio, the traditional print, the traditional flyers in the letterbox, the 7 touch points. Why is it so important that you include a social media funnel in your advertising campaign? And I guess when you're talking to small business, at what point should you start thinking about that? So quite a broad question there.
Well, let's just look at what the world has become. We are glued to our phones, whether we like it or not, especially younger generations. And the time we spend on our phones is mostly spent on apps, including we have Facebook Messenger, we have Instagram, we have the Facebook app. So with our time being spent on these apps, in marketing, a smart marketer knows to meet your consumer or your prospect where they are. And if they are on their phone, on a social media app, we have to meet them there. And they're not just hanging out on Facebook, they're jumping around amongst platforms. So that's why you have to develop something called a social media funnel. So you're really just hitting people where they are and where they know you. Because a funnel is basically, as Facebook lays out a funnel in their ads manager, it's 3 steps. So it's awareness, when somebody's getting to know you and your brand, or maybe even they don't even know the problem they really have yet, but they're sort of researching and trying to work it out. And then you have consideration, which is much more about, okay, so now I want to know about your brand. I want to know the benefits to what you're selling. How can it help me in my life or business? And then you actually have the conversion phase, which is purchase. So you have to really address all 3 of those. People are researching, they're now researching their problem, they're researching the actual solution, and then they're actually considering to buy. And you need to touch on that across all platforms.
Now, when I think of a funnel, I think of literally a funnel, which is handy because I guess that's the imagery you're supposed to walk away with. But what are we trying to point to? Because I've seen a lot of Facebook ads where people are trying to be everything. They're trying to be a website, basically, in an ad. They're trying to get you to buy. They're trying to tell you everything they possibly can about the event in one. Is the point of a funnel to push you towards something that's going to give you more content or more information, or can it be all in one, this ad?
You actually do want to be specific. You're spot on. I'm going to give an example because I think this is something we can all understand, or most of us. Like, let's just say lower back pain, for example. Let's say that I've woken up and I suddenly have lower back pain and I have no idea how or why it's gotten there. It could be sore muscles. It could be stress. It could be my mattress. It could be my age. It could be a lot of different things. So what's happening in this phase is I'm in awareness. So I'm actually now looking for educational content online that'll help me to understand how or why I have this back pain. I'm not ready to hire a chiro at this point. Not even thought of that yet, but I'm literally looking for information. So in that phase of the funnel, you're doing awareness, so you're doing education. So like you were saying, you don't want to be everything to everyone. You don't want to be like, I'm going to educate you, and then I'm going to talk about my product, and then I want you to click on the link and sign up. So you're straight up doing education. And then from there, hopefully what's going to happen is this person's going to see your ad or even your organic post. It's going to be a great educational piece on top 10 reasons why you might have lower back pain. You build a rapport and a relationship with that brand because they're teaching you. And then the next phase is that through targeting in Facebook ads account, now I can get a follow-up ad that's very specifically, hey, you know what, you might actually need some adjustments. That could be actually what you need. And this could be, the benefits to how that's going to help you. And then I'm learning that as the next step. And then the very next step after that would be, now that I'm watching and consuming that content from that chiro, then there's the last step, which is, hey, why don't you come in and book an appointment, a free session, a free adjustment to see me? So it's 3 very different messages for 3 very different parts of the funnel.
And I suppose that's why it's so important that you have a strategy laid out beforehand, because it's very easy to have an event and go, bang, there's an information about the event and that's it.
Yes.
But I think having a strategy where you go information, education, like it's almost like you're spooning the person, you're kind of comforting them with knowledge, and then you move on to the next phase, which is just the awareness and letting them know about the brand. So is it something where repetition is key at the beginning? Is that where you hit all the different platforms all at once to try and get as many audience members as possible?
Yeah, so what you would do is you come up with those awareness pieces, which are educational pieces, which will basically help solve the problem of your prospect or your customer. And from there, you have to then think, okay, what do I need to do with this content to make it natively display in all of the different social platforms? When I say natively, it's because if you think about Instagram, for example, for those of you that know Insta, it's the world of hashtags and, emojis and perfectly curated shots and short videos, where Facebook's different. You don't necessarily have hashtags. It could be longer videos, a lot of Facebook Lives, things like that. YouTube's a whole other story. So you're looking at, okay, here's my message. Here's what I want to teach. Now I'm going to develop content that suits the different platforms to teach that particular problem that person has.
Are you a believer that everybody should be everywhere?
No, and that's a very good point. So when we're
thank God, because I can't get my head around Instagram. I just can't. It's just one extra layer of business awareness. I'm just not there, and I'm also not I haven't got a creative bone in my body, so I don't feel like that's a platform for me or my business. So I'm glad you said that, because I was starting to go, oh my God, I've got to get an Instagram account.
Not necessarily, and I was speaking to a company the other day. They actually do ropes training, like for tradies, to actually scale up and do upselling on ropes to clean windows. And they're like, oh my gosh, they laid it all out. Here's my LinkedIn, here's my Facebook, here's my Instagram, here's my YouTube. I'm like, wait, whoa, stop already. Where are these people? Who are these people you're trying to track? They're like men. Okay, great. Okay, so straight away, what do they do? And they're like, oh, they're in trades. And I said, they're not going to be on Instagram for the most part.
Unless they're apprentices.
Yeah. And in very certain ways.
And they're not their buyers anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So basically that we said, no, you don't need to be there. And then we were sort of looking at, well, for a very specific part of your market, not going to be LinkedIn, it's going to be Facebook. So you look at where your market is, you have to understand where they're hanging out, and then you use the platforms. But with that said, Facebook is across the board going to hit most people, even B2B, because let's face it, in B2B, you're still communicating with the CEO, a head of HR, an executive, and they're a person with problems, and they're probably on Facebook hanging out, checking out their family posts or their friends' posts for the weekend, and then they'll see the ad skirt through, and if it's presented in the language and helping to solve their problems in an educational piece, they'll take notice of it.
And that's where sort of instigating maybe a relationship with a copywriter might be a bit helpful, just to get a whole bunch of ads written up properly and make sure you're using someone here in Australia.
Yes, for sure.
So let's talk about why we brought you on the program, because I really feel as though this is where I learned the most in your presentations, which is all about the 3-step plan to setting up that social media platform. And let's focus on Facebook now, so that we can really get knuckle down onto understanding how to make the most of that.
Yes. Okay. So first of all, when you're setting up your Facebook for business, for advertising, you first make sure that you're using the ads manager. So this is not boosting posts. This is literally using a whole other section of Facebook called the ads manager. And I actually just want to start, when I'm talking through this, Facebook actually has an incredible new program they've released called Facebook Business Blueprint. And you can just Google that, and they have actual free courses that help small business owners.
Oh, that's clever.
It's incredible. And it's actually quite good. I went through it and I'm like, well, this is very good. So, so basically you set up your ads account. So if you're sort of thinking, well, I have no idea what Heather's talking about right now, you could go there, you could Google, that. When you set up your ads account, what you're looking to do is, first and foremost, is you're grabbing what is called a pixel. And a lot of people think, oh, what pixel? Oh my gosh, I've heard about that thing before. What is it? Very easy. Here's how you understand it. It's a piece of code that you put on your website. It's a bridge between Facebook and your website. It allows basically Facebook to recognize any logged in Facebook users who are now hanging around and surfing around your website. So you can then build audiences of people to place ads to that have visited your website. So that's step one. You want to get your pixel all set up, and it's through your ads manager. You get it on your website. You do it once. Once it's done, it's done. Then from there, you want to build what's called audiences. So an audience is very simply just the group of people that your ad is going to display in front of. So it's your target audience. And remember what we were speaking about before, where you sort of have that funnel where you have awareness, and then you have consideration, and you have the conversion. You actually build audiences for each of those steps based on where somebody is in your customer journey.
Because some people might already be at the point where they're past education, and they're looking for, a targeted response to what their pain point is, like that pain.
Because they might have already been on your website. They might have already been reading your blog posts and your educational pieces. They might have even been to your sales page or your services or products page. So you know that they're interested because they've actually been to those pages on your site.
I'm not going to ask you how it is that Facebook knows that about what's happening on my website, because that's a bit creepy.
The pixel.
The pixel. It's just a bit of code, really.
Yeah.
Because we're all used to using that bit of code for Ads Manager as well, for, not Ads Manager, for Google AdWords, for example.
Yeah.
So we all, you've got that punched in. So, and if you've got a good web designer, they should have asked you that anyway, so that they can find that funnel.
That's right.
So you've got the pixel or pixel?
Pixel. P-I-X-E-L.
So you've got the pixel, and then you've utilised it on your website. Now, how do you start building that audience?
Okay, so once the pixel's there, then inside of your ads manager, there's an area called audiences. And you have 3 types of audiences that you can build. So the first type is called custom. Custom is basically people that know, like, and trust you. So they're people that have visited your website, like we're talking about. They're people that might be on your email list. There are people that are highly engaged with you on Instagram and Facebook, because Instagram is run through your Facebook Ads Manager as well. They're owned by both Facebook. So it's people that know, like, and trust you. The next audience is called lookalike. Those are basically audiences where you say, hey, Facebook. We don't really say that, but you know what I mean. You go, hey, Facebook. So basically, take my source audience, my custom audience, my website traffic, for example, and go out and find a whole bunch of other people that are really, really similar with their demographic and their interest and, you know, where they live and their history on Facebook. Find a whole bunch of people really similar to people that already know me, build an audience of them.
So doing these audience builds properly means that you're actually using the Facebook algorithm properly, because you're teaching it what your audience is.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
Yes. And then you have the third audience, which is called a saved audience. And that one is just straight up targeting on interest and demographic. So, for example, like, let's say that in northern beaches of Sydney, you are opening a childcare centre in your home. You've gotten all the licenses, everything's ready to go, and you now want to target mums. So you can literally build an audience of mums with young children that live in like 5 different postcodes that are a certain age range, that have a certain interest base. So you know that they work because they like working organizations for women, and build an audience for them. Generally, this is a cold audience, but not always. But it's a great audience to really reach out and find more people that don't yet know you.
I get a feeling that a lot of people start with that point. They think, who's my ideal client? And I'm going to build an audience around that, without going through and almost teaching Facebook through the custom audience and through the people who know, like, and trust you first, and then building it.
You're so spot on. And this is where a lot of people actually say Facebook ads do not work for me, because what they'll do is they'll boost a post. So they'll actually go into Facebook, boost a post, and maybe just choose people that live around them.
Yeah.
And like, it doesn't work.
No, of course not. Exactly. And because it's not... Yeah, I mean, you've got to teach the algorithm. It's kind of like, I always talk about AI, and I think, well, AI is great, but you need to mold it. You need to sort of use it like a bit of plasticine and make it look the way you want it to look, and then let it finalise the process.
You are molding the algorithm, exactly. And with the audiences that you build and your pixel, what happens over time is we call it seasoning the pixel. Seasoning the pixel.
Okay, massaging it into the meat.
Exactly. And the idea is that basically what happens is that as you have the pixel on your site and you're building these custom audiences, and you're doing the different types of ads as well. So you're doing traffic to your website, you're doing conversion, which is when somebody signs up for a form or buys something. Facebook starts to kick in and go, okay, so I've watched this person all the way from here in this awareness phase, how they've now engaged with your website, and then how they've eventually bought or converted with you. So they are starting to analyze, as we've just said, with the algorithm, starting to understand the types of people in the audiences that you build that it should put the ads in front of to give you a better result.
Can I ask you a basic question? When you're doing this, do you have to have a business page on Facebook? Is that sort of a must for you?
You have to have a business page in order to do advertising on Facebook, and you have to have a business profile on Instagram in order to do ads on Instagram as well.
Right. And you think it's sort of, because it's sort of, they're owned by the same company and they feed off one another, it does make sense these days to sort of have both. But you can replicate them, right?
Oh, you know what? I think if you're going to do Facebook ads, just get an Instagram business profile. It doesn't matter if you have a few people that follow you. Just do the ad in both places, because in your ads manager, this is also what's cool about ads manager and not boosted posts, is that you have placements that you can select for your ads to go to. Or you can just use the default with which Facebook recommends, which is Facebook, Instagram. It's also Audience Network, which is other apps and mobile websites that Facebook will show their ads on, and Messenger as well. You can actually have your ads show up on the homepage of Messenger. Yeah. So you're now targeting all over both platforms, including apps, and it's really powerful.
And this is where you need to be careful with your message, because obviously you don't want to just be hammering the same thing over and over again. You have to develop a bit of a strategy. Yes. So as you were mentioning before with the lower back pain, you have to start the conversation maybe with some educational pieces and then move that around into, have you thought about using someone like me for your services, and then mold it around, okay, here I am. This is where you go.
This is what we offer. These are the benefits. These are the features of the package. Here's where you got to sign up. Yeah. Now,
I presume with these three different types of lists that you can upload a customised list. So if you've been squirreling away business cards like I did almost obsessively for the first couple of years, and then you go, oh, look, there's a nice big pile here. I'm going to put these into an Excel spreadsheet. that becomes a useful tool.
It does. And as long as you personally have collected these emails yourself, that's what's important. You can't go off and buy a list. Morally, it's not right. And basically what happens is when you're uploading your list, so basically when I say list, you're just doing a CSV file where you have a column of first name, last name, and email. You upload that, and then Facebook actually says, how did you collect these details? And you basically say, I got them straight from the customer.
I promise.
I promise.
I think HubSpot does a similar thing as well when you're uploading a list for that funnel. It also asks you how you collected them. And that's really important because we should mention here at this point that there is privacy guidelines that we're all bound to simply by operating in any sort of a business. Doesn't matter if you're PTY Ltd or a sole trader or anything. You're selling any products, you've got an ABN, then you need to adhere to these processes. And don't forget that if you're also communicating or dealing with anybody in the European Union, they have super strict laws as well. It's worth looking at a couple of articles out there just to make sure that you adhere to their processes because it's a worldwide situation. You're not sort of above the law anywhere in the world, really.
No, and oftentimes it really comes down to your privacy statement on your website. That's what all of you need to have is a good privacy statement, especially if you're doing business over in the UK or Europe. You want something that says, essentially, we might have cookies or pixels on our website, and this is what we do with that information. You have to really spell it out in layman's terms. And there are great Aussie resources out there. There's sort of like free legal sites that allow you to create these GDPR compliant privacy policies. And once you do that on your site, you'll also notice as well on websites where you are opting into their newsletter or their email list, and oftentimes now there'll be a little tick box that says I agree to the privacy policy, and that's why that's there now in that pop-up box or that opt-in form, is because they're complying with these new laws.
Yeah, and it's something you should be aware of. If you're going to do the pixel thing, that is what you're doing. You are connecting the people and their private. Well, I guess their private data is anything. A private data is first name, last name. So if someone's jumping onto your website and you're tracking that behaviour, then that is a part of their privacy that you need to
tell them.
of.
You need to be very open with that. Exactly.
So I think that's a good takeaway from today is one of the strategies we can all go away and go back and look at our websites and think, oh my God, if I updated my privacy policy, does it actually say copyright 2019 at the bottom? Because we're now in April, everyone. So that's something to think about as well. And think about, even just connecting up those pixels as a starting point. I presume this entire process is free up until the point where you start putting the ads out there. Is that right?
Exactly. Yeah, you can do all this setup for free, build your audiences, get everything ready to go, and you can then start to do ads, and that's where the money kicks in. And you can do an ad for as low as $5 a day.
That still adds up, though.
It does. It does. You got to know what you're doing. You do have to make sure you have the strategy right. And
when you're building these lists and you create an ad, does Facebook give you sort of any side of an indication about how many people you're going to reach as you tick those options with building this audience? I imagine as you toggle things on and off, it's going to tell you what your reach is going to be and that sort of thing?
Yes. So when you're building your audiences, whether it's custom or lookalike or saved, it will actually tell you, here's how big your audience is. In most cases, there's a few things where if you are uploading your email list, for whatever reason, Facebook can't quite pick the number perfectly and display that. But like for email list, you just basically it's about 60 to 70% of your email list is going to be in that audience on Facebook. And that's just because some people on your email list use a different email address than they do on their Facebook account.
That's actually something I was going to ask because I felt that was quite a hurdle. How big a problem is it with the fact that people tend to use their personal email addresses to create? Because when we create a Facebook profile, irrespective of whether we've got businesses attached or community pages or, little things that we do for the environment, whatever it is, it's still you and you're the one who's logging in under that email address. If you've uploaded a bunch of emails that aren't the same email address that people log in with, is that a problem, or does Facebook still pick up the names and make an association that way?
Yeah, look, the more information you can give it, the better. So if you have their mobile phone number, if you have their postcode, their address, you want to stick all of that in a spreadsheet that you upload,
right.
And it will try its best to do the match. It'll never be 100%.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why you have the other audiences. That's why you do the pixel on your website, because, those people that are hopefully on your email list would also be visiting your website from time to time. And that's why you have build the other audiences as well, the lookalikes, the saved audiences, because you'll be able to reach them through the other audiences too.
So the fact that you've turned on Ads Manager and you might be using lists quite successfully, do you think that it's still important that you are active on those business groups, for example, if you're B2B, or in community groups where they might have a business page if you're trying to target people? Is that still just as important to have those ads ready to go as well?
Yeah, so basically, Facebook is a social media platform. Social, meaning you want to be connecting with people just one-on-one, having conversations, commenting on their posts, because that's also going to help your algorithms as well. So if you're doing just ads and that's it, you're actually going to pay a little bit more for your ads, and it won't reach as many people as somebody that's actually actively posting on their page, going into groups and having engagement. You can't do ads yet in groups. So a group is just basically you are there as yourself, although you can join the group as a page, but either or, you're there and you're giving a lot of value. That's the idea behind a group.
So Facebook uses its algorithm to, I guess, pat people on the head. Yes. Who live in there. The longer you live in there and the longer you exist in there, the more reach your ads are going to get too.
Yeah, the more people's posts that you share, the more comments you do, the more engagements you have on other people's posts, the more of your own posts that you do that are not just links to your website, but, you know, whatever it's memes or quotes or Facebook Lives or other things where you're keeping people in the Facebook community and not linking out, that's all going to be rewarded with two things: organic traffic, so any post that you're doing on your page, free posts will be seen by more people in most cases, and also your ad costs will go down and ads will most likely get seen more as well.
Wow. So you've really got to sort of be quite active in order to make the most of it.
Which is why you don't want to be on all platforms, because you will not have time.
Yeah, just exhausted. And they're 24/7, not actually doing any work, just promoting my business that I'm not in or doing anything in. There's no business to speak of. Yeah, it's a tricky balance, isn't it? And I think sort of greater sociologically, we can sit back. I mean, literally my husband took Facebook off his phone, and a little part of me went, oh my God, how do you do that? And it's weird, isn't it? We're only talking 10 years ago that this thing didn't even exist in our lives, and yet it's become all encompassing.
It has.
So if Facebook continues, let's look into the future now. If Facebook continues the way it is and people are becoming more and more distrusting of it and annoyed and not wanting to give it money because of the foul behaviour that sometimes it has, that it happily blames on its computers, where do you see social media moving to? Do you think it becomes more spread out? Do you think we have to be on the lookout for different ways of communicating with customers? What does it mean for a small business?
Yeah, so the future of social media is definitely it's video. So it's short video and apps. So we're really looking at, like, Messenger and WhatsApp right now are on the rise massively.
How do you advertise in WhatsApp?
It's being developed.
Wow.
It's all being developed.
Of course it is, because they've got to make money somehow.
Business side of WhatsApp, you know, there's a whole business area of it that's up and coming. But yeah, I think the thing for us, you know, looking at the future of social is looking at more of these conversational one-on-one apps like Messenger and WhatsApp. And the reason why is that even though we're social and we're always on our phone and social media, it's still very lonely. It's actually kind of gotten lonelier. People are more disconnected. So there's kind of this shift that we're seeing in social world, which is people are looking for more of the one-on-one conversations, which is why Messenger is really on the up and up, and why these things called Messenger bots are happening, because brands cannot sit there on a Messenger and talk one-on-one to all the people coming through Messenger and give them a good customer experience.
Whoa, hang on a second. A brand's got a bot that's talking to me? That's really disturbing.
This is the future.
Oh, wow.
If it's used in a good way. So let's just give you an example. So if you go onto, say, Qantas, onto their Facebook page, and they have the little message me button at the top of their page, and you click on that. Now imagine that there's probably thousands of other people, not only in Australia but worldwide, on that button going, hey, is my flight on time? There's not even one person, 2 people, 10 people, 50 people that are going to manage all those conversations at once. It's just not doable. So what people are starting to do is introduce what's called a bot. It's not a robot. All it is automation. So it's pre-scripted automation. For those of you familiar with email autoresponders, it's basically a very similar thing where you build out sort of, hey, how can I help you? It might say, I want to check my flight. For example, there's a button that says that. Another one might be, I want to book a flight, just at a very top level. And then you go, okay, I want to check my flight. And if that happens, then you organize automation after that says, hey, what's your flight number? It's all run through automation, aka a bot, as they say. But that's the future of where we're headed. And even small businesses that use these bots, they'll name them. They'll say, hey, I'm Heather Porter's bot, Rebecca, and I'm here to help you. And then I can help you to a certain point. But when you need to talk to Heather, just type talk to Heather, which is what I have on my bot. And then I have people doing that all the time. And then from there, I take over it alerts me, and I have full-on conversations with people, and help them out from there.
So it's important that if you're going to instigate something like this, even as a big company or a small company, that you somehow personalise it and make sure that at the end of the day, if someone wants you, they can get hold of you, because that's what you don't want. You don't want any walls of communication or chats.
Put your phone number out there. Be available for people. Truly, people do business with people, and technology is just a leverage point. That's all. And businesses that go all bot crazy, all automation crazy, and they're just flogging stuff on ads right, left, and center, they're just not going to survive, which is where we're headed in social media. We have to be community-focused, one-on-one focused as well.
It's the rise of the small business, because this is what we are. We are adaptable. We are genuine. We have connections that are real. And I think that that's one of our strengths that we need to hang on to.
Yes.
Well, look, we've covered a huge amount today. We've talked about the Facebook funnel. We've talked about just general social media funnels. We've talked about this 3-step plan on setting up your Facebook accurately. Now, how can people find out more about your wonderful programs and your website as well if they want to find out more about you?
Sure, thanks for asking. So, easiest way to reach me is website love.com.au. I know it's a funny name, but I use the word love because I find love has such a great vibration to it, the word, and it either repels or attracts the perfect person I love to work with. So we build programs and websites that you and your customers love.
Well, that's fantastic. Now, we've had Heather Porter on the show today, but we've got a huge list of guests, over 130 podcasts available on the smallbizmatters.com.au website. Plus, you can subscribe to Small Biz Matters Australia on iTunes, where there are over 62 iTunes podcasts available. We're also on Spotify and Podbean as well. So make sure you subscribe and give us a little like or a little testimonial if you're happy. Plus, let us know what you would like to know more about. We have yet to repeat a topic, but I know there's a whole lot of things out there that we haven't covered yet. And I know there's a lot that small business craves when it comes to small business education. You've been listening to Small Biz Matters here on Triple H. You are listening to the experts when it comes to small business education. My name is Alexi Boyd. We will be back next Tuesday with another great program. Thanks for listening.